The Vatican Library has fascinated scholars, skeptics, and conspiracy theorists for centuries. It's a place where the known and unknown blur, where documented history sits beside rumours of forbidden knowledge. Today, we're going to look at the secret Vatican archives, what's in them, what's been speculated, and what just might be deliberately hidden. Because in a place as secretive and symbolically powerful as the Vatican, it's not hard to believe that facts and myths could overlap. So do they really contain evidence of UFOs? Let's find out. Hidden behind marble walls and Vatican guards lies one of the most exclusive libraries on Earth. The Vatican Apostolic Library, often called simply the Vatican Library, isn't just a collection of old books. It's a fortress of knowledge, sealed off from the world. Founded in 1475 by Pope Sixtus IV, the library now holds over 75,000 codices and more than 1 million printed volumes. Its archives contain texts that date back over 2,000 years, some of them so rare and fragile that only a handful of scholars will ever see them in person. But what makes it so mysterious isn't just what we know is in there, it's what we don't. For me, this story is personal. My father was a historian, and every few years he travelled to Rome to work in the Vatican archives. He was one of the lucky few allowed inside, but even he admitted there were places in the library he was never allowed to enter. He once told me, "There are mysteries in those vaults that no one outside the church has ever seen." He believed there were wonders buried in the shelves, things that could change how we understand history, or something even bigger. Now, he believed in evidence, facts, and thorough research. So to hear him saying that sparked a lifelong interest in the secret archives and what they might be hiding. Now, interestingly, in 2019, Pope Francis made a curious decision. He changed the name of the centuries-old secret Vatican archive, known for generations as a fortress of hidden knowledge, to the Vatican Apostolic Archive. Why? Well, he said that the term secretum had taken on the prejudicial meaning of being hidden or not to be revealed. The word secret had become misleading, suggesting something sinister or hidden. But was it really just about semantics? Or was this a carefully calculated rebranding, an attempt to downplay centuries of speculation? Now, when a centuries-old institution like the Catholic Church changes a name to sound less conspiratorial, doesn't this naturally have the opposite effect, where people assume there's something to hide? So overall, this combination of history, secrecy, and scale has turned the Vatican Library into a magnet for curiosity, speculation, and of course, conspiracy. So with all this in mind, let's look at what's inside. Is there forbidden knowledge and suppressed history? Or, as some believe, something not of this world? Despite the secrecy, we do know some of what's stored inside the Vatican Library. There are letters from emperors and kings that we know of. For example, King Henry VIII's failed plea for a papal annulment that led to England's break from Rome. We know there's documents from Galileo's trial, the papal absolution of the Knights Templar in a last-ditch effort to save them from Philip the Fair, and even the reform of the calendar by Pope Gregory XIII in 1582. There's also some of the earliest known copies of the Bible. Other volumes in the secret archive include pagan writings, banned books from the Inquisition, and lost texts of classical philosophy, carefully preserved, yet kept out of the public eye. Among the Vatican's most poignant documents is a raw human moment from a Renaissance master confronting the church authority. It's a letter written in 1550 from Michelangelo to the Bishop of Cesena. At 72 years old, Michelangelo was overseeing the construction of the Dome of St. Peter's Basilica, an immense task he had accepted from Pope Paul III, despite its physical and logistical demands. But after the Pope's death, payments for the project had abruptly stopped. In his letter, Michelangelo pleads for help. The workers, unpaid for nearly 3 months, were risking their lives guarding building materials and threatening to abandon the site. He warns in the letter that their departure would cause financial ruin and public scandal. This letter is confirmed to have existed in the Vatican archives, though it was among several that was stolen in 1997. The BBC actually reported that the Vatican had received a ransom demand for its return, confirming its presence in the archives prior to the theft. Other fascinating documents that have been confirmed to exist in the archive include the 1493 papal bull Inter Caetera, in which Pope Alexander VI drew a line across the globe. This granted Spain complete dominion over the New World, a decision that shaped the colonisation of the Americas. There is also correspondence between the Vatican and Adolf Hitler, which has been sealed for decades, but it has now been released and it reveals how the Church interacted with Nazi Germany and its muted reaction to the rumours surrounding the Holocaust. Most of these books and documents are locked away behind strict layers of access. Entire wings of the archive have never been digitised or fully catalogued, and nobody, not even the Pope, has personally read everything stored within. The Vatican has been sharing more of its archives, however, in a digitisation project that began around 2012. The initiative aimed to digitise tens of thousands of pages from some of the most valuable manuscripts, using high-resolution imaging technology to preserve and share them globally. These documents and records aren't just historical footnotes. They're windows into decisions, beliefs and secrets that actually shaped the modern world. And for every item we can confirm, there may be hundreds or thousands more locked away from view. And that's where the speculation begins. The idea that the Vatican might be hiding proof of extraterrestrial life didn't come from nowhere. In the 1950s, authors like Desmond Leslie, who co-wrote Flying Saucers Have Landed with contactee George Adamski, suggested that the Church had known about alien visitations for centuries. Leslie even speculated that hidden knowledge was stored inside the Vatican's archives, suppressed to avoid theological upheaval. Later in the 1970s, Brinsley Le Peur Trench, a British aristocrat and editor of the Flying Saucer Review, claimed that the secret Vatican documents described ancient contact with non-human intelligences. He went as far as to propose that early church figures might have interpreted alien visitations as divine events and quietly recorded them. By the 1980s and 90s, conspiracy authors like David Icke and Timothy Good added fuel to the fire. Good in particular referenced Vatican involvement in his best-selling book Above Top Secret, implying that the Church had cooperated with international governments to conceal evidence of UFOs. And of course, most recently, claims have emerged through alleged whistleblowers. In 2023, former US intelligence official David Grush testified that the Vatican had prior knowledge of a supposed UFO crash in Italy in 1933 and may have helped transfer the technology to the United States. This alleged crash in Magenta, Italy, was supposedly recovered by Mussolini's secret unit, the RS-33 cabinet, and later reported to Pope Pius XI. According to documents leaked by Italian researcher Roberto Pinotti, the Vatican may have played a quiet, behind-the-scenes role in informing the Americans during the post-war years. Now, of course, these theories have multiplied and gone viral. But how much of it is fiction? And how much is based on something the Vatican might actually know? Is there any credible evidence that the Vatican is hiding proof of UFO contact? To date, no physical artefacts, photographs, or verified documents have emerged from the Vatican that directly confirm alien life. That much is true. But absence of evidence isn't always evidence of absence. Let's look at the alleged 1933 Magenta UFO crash in more detail. In June of that year, more than a decade before Roswell, Italy was the alleged site of a mysterious aerial crash near the town of Magenta, just west of Milan. According to controversial documents that surfaced decades later, a strange craft, described as a metal disc, was recovered by Mussolini's fascist government and swiftly concealed from the public. The most striking piece of evidence tied to this event is a purported telegram dated June 13, 1933. Allegedly sent by Mussolini's cabinet, the telegram instructs local authorities and military personnel to maintain absolute secrecy, referring to the incident as a aeromobile non convencional, or an unconventional aircraft. The materials reportedly retrieved from the crash were said to be stored in a top-secret facility overseen by the RS-33 cabinet, a clandestine unit allegedly founded to study such phenomena. Now, this crash went completely unnoticed. But as I mentioned earlier, in 2023, former US intelligence officer David Grush amazed the world by referring to this crash while testifying before Congress. He alleged that the Vatican had knowledge of this crash, and his claim was that a decades-long international cover-up of alien technology had been going on. Now, the Vatican quickly denied it. Marco Grilli, secretary to the archives, dismissed the idea, saying it was like asking for letters from Pontius Pilate or the Virgin Mary, documents that simply didn't exist in the Vatican archives. Of course, this kind of claim is not going to go away in a hurry, and speculation continues. Something that often surprises people to learn is that the Vatican actually has its own astronomical observatory. Not just one, but two. The original is located at Castel Gandolfo, the Pope's summer residence near Rome, and the other, somewhat unexpectedly, is in Arizona, high atop Mount Graham. There, nestled among major university telescopes, the Vatican Advanced Technology Telescope peers into the deep cosmos. The Church's relationship with the stars stretches back centuries. In fact, the Vatican has been formally studying astronomy since the late 1500s, originally to reform the calendar, but over time its work evolved to serious scientific research. Today, the Vatican Observatory is staffed by Jesuit scientists, some of whom hold doctorates in astrophysics from leading universities. One of the most recognisable figures is Brother Guy Consolmagno, a Jesuit brother, planetary scientist and current director of the Vatican Observatory. He's made headlines not just for his expertise, but for his refreshingly open-minded stance on one of humanity's biggest questions: are we alone in the universe? If there are other intelligent beings out there, he has said, that doesn't challenge our faith. The universe is big. God is bigger. And yes, he's even joked, half seriously, about baptising aliens, but only, he clarifies, if they ask for it. This openness isn't just rhetorical. In 2009, the Vatican hosted an international conference on astrobiology. Real scientists, real data, and real inquiry into the possibility of life beyond Earth. The event brought together astronomers, biologists, and theologians to explore how the discovery of extraterrestrial life, if it ever happens, might be understood not just scientifically but spiritually. So rather than seeing science as a threat to belief, the Vatican has long supported the idea that exploring the universe can enhance, not diminish, our sense of wonder and possibly our understanding of the divine. Then there's the question of motive. If the Vatican did possess evidence of non-human life, what would they gain or risk by revealing it? A theological crisis? A loss of control over spiritual narratives? Or perhaps they've chosen, as some argue, to protect humanity from knowledge we're just not ready to face. And history tells us something important. The Church has suppressed paradigm-shifting truths before. Galileo was forced to recant astronomical observations that contradicted doctrine. Could the same thing be happening again, just on a cosmic scale? In the end, we're left with credible people like Grush making serious claims, a centuries-old institution with an unmatched archive and an ongoing refusal to open its most sensitive files up to the public. So is there evidence inside the Vatican Library? We may not have the proof yet, but we absolutely have the reason to keep asking. And it's an important point, but not all of the Vatican's rumoured secrets involved extraterrestrials. Some of them are actually just stranger still and harder to categorise. Take the Chronovisor, allegedly built in the 1950s by Father Pellegrino Onetti, a Benedictine monk and physicist. This device is said to allow users to view past events, like a window through time. Onetti claimed to have witnessed ancient Rome and even the crucifixion of Jesus. While the only photo he released was later debunked as a 19th century statue, believers still insist that the Chronovisor is real and has been confiscated by the Vatican. And then there's the famous Grand Grimoire, a legendary book of dark magic said to summon demons and unlock forbidden power. According to some sources, it was discovered in the tomb of King Solomon and later hidden in the Vatican to keep it from falling into the wrong hands. This legend occurs in occult literature from the 19th century onwards, notably in the Book of Black Magic by Arthur Edward Waite. The Vatican connection is often cited in modern occult and conspiracy books, such as The Vatican's Exorcists by Tracy Wilkinson in 2007. And of course, you can't forget about the third secret of Fatima. The church released a version of the secret in 2000, a vision of a bishop dying in white among ruins. But some claim that it wasn't the real secret, that the true prophecy was so apocalyptic the Vatican couldn't risk releasing it. Many Fatima devotees, and notably Father Nicholas Gruner and author Antonio Socci, in his book The Fourth Secret of Fatima, claim the true, more apocalyptic secret still remains hidden. The next one is particularly interesting to me, and I might do a full video on it, but it's the idea that the Vatican possesses relics from Atlantis or pre-flood civilizations. This is a staple of fringe archaeology and alternate history, notably in the works by Graham Hancock in Fingerprints of the Gods in 1995, and of course on conspiracy forums online. So it's worth noting that there's obviously no concrete evidence for any of these claims or any confirmation that these objects actually exist. But for those who believe, the secrecy is evidence in itself. Most people dismiss the idea that the Vatican is hiding fantastical objects, lost documents, or evidence of UFO contact. To them, it's just a myth, a speculation. But what if they're wrong? What if the truth really is sealed behind those locked doors? What if the fragments of history, religion, and something not quite human are already there, waiting to be found? So what do you think? Which side do you fall on? Do you think the Vatican's hiding secret objects and documents that we may never see? I would really love to read your comments. And if you'd like more content just like this, don't forget to like and subscribe.